My goal today is to share some stories, some ideas, some concepts with all of you that will not only help your mind to think about how you can impact people that you have in your life, but also I want to touch your heart, because oftentimes that we go to work every day and we function and we help people with our heads, but I want to give you some tools that can help you with your heart. Way back when I was a little kid, I grew up having a horrible stutter. And that stutter lasted until I was in my 30s. I was teased, I was beat up, I was bullied quite a bit in school, and decided that I had to push through it every single day in order to accomplish some of the goals that I had in my life. So at the age of 21, I got into an industry where I was able to build agencies and grow people and help thousands of families in Maryland, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, D.C., among other areas. And I was able to see a lot of stuff, what happened in households and what happened in families. So starting in about 1998 or so, my wife and I, after trying to have children for about 9 years, we couldn't have kids, so we started adopting children. So right about 2004 or so, when we adopted our sixth child, we realized that our house started to shrink. Anybody with lots of kids understand that sometimes your house starts to shrink. So we were talked into looking for a house. We couldn't find a house that was big enough to house 6 kids very easily, so we decided to build a large house in the woods. Fast forward to about 2007 or so. My son and I were out in the woods one day, and I'm from Lansdowne, Lakeland area, so those in the city, county area, you know where that is. So I'm a city boy, if you will. But we built this house in the woods, and my son and I, my oldest son and I, were out trying to clear some paths in 6.5 acres of ground. Not to say that I have a clue what it's like to create paths in woods, because I'm from the city, you know what I'm saying? So I'm out there, I've got a hatchet, and I'm clearing out these paths, looking like I know what I'm talking about. My son's about 10 years old at the time. And all of a sudden, I disturbed a nest of yellowjackets. Ooh, can you feel my pain? So the yellowjackets start swarming, and Matthew, our oldest son, being a 10-year-old or so, he decided to run. Well, 10-year-olds typically run faster than guys my age. I started to run. We're about an acre and a half away from the house, and I am being torn apart by these things, all over my shirt, all over my pants. So I run closer to the house, and I realized that they would keep stinging me. So if you can imagine this, I started stripping. Taking off my shirt, yes, taking it off. I didn't do the underwear thing, but I stripped off my pants because they were going through my pants. They were going through my shirt. They kept stinging me, so I fall down on the driveway, gasping for air because I'm running, an acre and a half away from the house, and I thought I was going to die, not from the bee stings, but from being out of breath. Now, let me tell you, I've been allergic to working out for most of my lifetime. Huge. I mean, if I would even go past a gym, I get the shivers, and I break out in hives, and I go into all these kind of gyrations because I thought only studs go to gyms and work out. So I'm not exaggerating. I'm on the driveway, staring up at the sky, trying to breathe because I was very much so out of breath. Well, that day created an aha moment in my life in a couple of different ways. And that day I realized that there was not going to come a time in the future when I would not outrun yellowjackets. So I started a workout routine that now is about 5 to 6 days a week, every week, and I dare say that any time I get swarmed by yellowjackets, I will outrun them this time because I'm in better shape. Now, that shares a concept that I want to share with you right now. People in your life and people in my life do not change because they just want to change. They change because there is a why in their life, W-H-Y, a why in their life that's huge. Let me share another story. When we're talking now probably back in 2002 or so, my wife and I were, in quotes, done adopting children. We had 4 children at the time. So I decided, I had this great moment of, intelligence that's very rare for some people these days, especially me some days. Anybody have those duh days? Am I the only one in the room? Those brain farts, you know what I'm saying? Am I allowed to say that? I think I just did. We all have brain farts from time to time, right? So I decided this brilliant idea, since we were done adopting children, that I was going to have start a talk, have a meeting, and invite hundreds and hundreds of families to come and hear our story about traveling overseas and adopting 4 orphan children. So I contacted our adoption attorney, and he is in California at the time, and we're obviously in Maryland, and I realized very quickly that I had to fill this conference room. It was about half the size of people, because he was flying, he's an attorney. He was flying in from California. I was not going to be embarrassed. So I decided to market it, advertise it, spend a lot of cash in trying to get people to this meeting. Well, the day came. Our 4 kids at the time were there, and 8 people showed up. 8 people showed up. Dear Lord, have mercy. I was some kind of embarrassed. So Ron, the attorney, he's like, okay, John, it's okay. So he brings his photo album that he was going to show the couple hundred people that should have been there, but that's another story, that were going to potentially adopt little children. So he brought this photo album, and we're flipping through the photo album in his hotel room, and this little girl in the photo album popped out. Her eyes were crossed. We looked at this, and then all of a sudden I started to cry. By the way, I'm a crybaby. If I lose it today, just turn your head and look that way, okay? So this little girl, she's about 20 months old or so in the snapshot, and her eyes are crossed. And see, we're done adopting. Can I say an amen? Can anybody say amen? 4 kids is enough kids, amen? Well, you know what I'm saying, right? 4 kids, enough. We're done adopting kids. But this little girl jumped out at us. So we're like, we came here to help other people adopt. 8 people showed up instead of 200. Little girl jumps at us, and then I start to cry. I don't understand why. We're done. Can I hear a done? Like done. 4 is enough kids, right? So we look at the album. I have to leave the room because men don't cry, right? Amen? Men don't cry? Liars. Men do cry, right? I cry all the time. So I leave the room, crying my eyes out. I have no idea why, because we're not there to adopt. Yes, we have 4 kids. Plenty. The house is big enough at the time in 2004. But there was something about this little girl. So my wife and I looked at each other. We're like, Shazam! There's something to this. I don't understand it. The logic doesn't make sense. So we arranged. I can't remember how we found the money. It's another story. But we found the money to adopt this little girl. About $20,000 or so it cost each to adopt kids overseas then. So we fly to Belarus, which is near Poland.
Я не могла поверить. Она звонила такая счастливая, мы все уже проводили, купили ей платье красивое. Но Дэвид мне все время передает привет. Она сказала, что Таня сказала тебе отвечать. Поэтому я довольна.
Вот вам и знакомство.
Oh my goodness.
Вот вам и знакомство.
Oh, look.
Лисица.
Hi there.
Вы же будете здесь, да? Да, будем здесь.
Who's that?
Who's that?
А как вас зовут?
Меня Валя.
Валентина, да? Я скажу, что вы сказали, что это лисица. Почему?
Лисичка, ну такая ласковая, такая хорошая. Всегда улыбается, всегда жалеется, всегда ко всем видит.
Get her.
Хорошо.
Wow.
They call her Little Foxy.
Little Foxy, huh?
She goes, where did everyone go?
That was a big smile.
Look at you. Look at
Hi.
you.
Where is she?
You're so smiley. Oh,
There she is.
Мама к тебе пришла и папа, да? К тебе мама с папой пришли и игрушку тебе такую принесли.
A big smile. Oh.
she's more interested in the camera.
Yeah,
That's
who is
more
that?
interesting. Who is that? Do they call her Irina or Ira, or what do they call her?
Ира.
Ira.
Ира, да, это?
Bye-bye.
Пока, скажи.
Пока.
Пока. Молодец. Ой, какая молодец.
Спряталась.
Спасибо.
Так жалею сюда.
She's beautiful.
Спряталась.
Глазки они ей сразу поставят на место. Сразу сделают операцию. Она
Мира,
быстро
где
это
папа?
операция
Где папа?
днем делают, а вечером уже
А
ребенка
мама где?
выписывают.
Пока-пока.
Ой, как хорошо.
А там мама. Ну, что ты знаешь? Вот это
Мама. She said it. Oh. She said mama. Say mama. Ира.
А скажи, папа. Скажи, папа.
Мама говорит хорошо.
Папа. Хочет сказать так. Губы делает и не получается.
Thank you. Oh man. She said mama.
Молодец. Есть
Oh
папа,
my
да?
goodness.
Спряталась.
She's adorable. Oh.
Мама.
She wants to what? Oh my goodness.
Ну все, маши пока.
Пока давай.
Пока.
We meet this little girl, and we do the paperwork prior to do all that, adopting her. So we're sitting in the orphanage director's office, and they're doing the paperwork and all the stuff to stamp. They love to stamp over in the East. They just, it's like, okay, it's okay, one stamp's enough. But no, they keep stamping paperwork. So anyway, we're sitting in the orphanage director's office. She goes, well, you know she's got a sister in another orphanage, right? Say, huh? Now, I don't speak Russian, maybe 10 words, and I'm like, what? Well, I mean, five kids is now a stretch. What? Wait, what? Huh? 6 kids? So I said, so I looked at my wife, Tammy. I said, like, we're halfway around the world now. Let's go hop in and go meet her. I don't know what's going to happen anyway. So we jump in the van and we go meet this little girl who happens to be the sister of Juliana, which was then our 5th child. So making even a longer story short, yep, we're insane, we're crazy. We did the paperwork and went back and adopted our 6th child. Now, I go back to the story of running from the bees. Right around that time, Juliana, at age 5, got cancer. A rare form, and she went through treatment and beat it. To make a swore I wouldn't cry. But it came back 7 more times. And in 2 days, she will have been gone 3 years at age 14. So what if I wouldn't have had that hunch? What if I wouldn't have had the meeting to help other families adopt children? I would have never seen the photograph of little Juliana, who we were able to save her life, at least for a period of time. You see, your why gets you out of bed. The people that you serve every day, the people that, I'll be a little blunt, don't know that they don't know. I'm sure you have at least one client that doesn't know that they don't know. Can I be a little bit more bold there? About as dumb as a tree? They don't give a hoot about their biological offspring. Can I get a well, you know? But then there are some people who know that they don't know. I think most of us in the room know that we don't know, hence why we're in this conference. That we want to learn at least one idea that we can take back to our family, that we can take back to the people that we serve every day. I want to give you a few more tips that are going to hopefully help you, not only help people that you serve, but help your family, help your household, because that's where your tribe actually starts. It starts right in your household. Write this down. Stories sell and facts tell. Stories sell and facts tell. You're going to find more times than not that when you choose to share stories with those people that you serve, they will be more open to what you have to say, instead of giving them a bunch of facts, because very candidly, people do not care a bunch of facts. They don't care what you think. So an idea that could potentially help you in a big way is get them, those people that you serve, that maybe don't know that they don't know. Maybe, let me get a show of hands. Do most of your people not know that they don't know? Is that fair to say? more than half maybe don't know that they don't know. Okay, so I'm going to try to help you get them to a point of knowing that they don't know. Number one, ask questions. Write it down. If you're not writing it down, you're not going to remember this. Ask questions, because the one who asks the most questions is in control of the conversation. If you have children, more times than not, if you're smart, you're going to get more out of your child by asking them questions and leading them down a yes path that will help them tremendously get through some of the challenges that they have. When you tell stories, it paints a picture for people that you want to serve. Giving them a bunch of information, telling them that they have to do this, if they don't pay the money, if they don't allow the bank withdrawal, et cetera, then they're going to go to jail or they're going to have a bunch of grief. Yeah, that might work with some people, but it's not going to work with all people. I want to share the 4 types of people you guys are going to help every single day, and that you do help every day. Write it down. The first type is the melancholy group. There's 4 types of people. The melancholy group. Those people, like me, like art. They like music. They're very emotional people. Logical? Sometimes. But you can talk to their heart much, much faster than you can talk to their head. Tell them stories. Get to their heart, because when you get to their heart, you're able to get to their head. They are introverts. They do not like to be embarrassed. If you want to talk to them privately. Don't ask them to speak in front of a group unless they've done it several hundred times, okay? That's the melancholy group. They are introverts. They're shy. They love people. They will cry at the drop of a hat. Anybody you know standing in front of you that might be a melancholy? Well, you know what I'm saying, okay? Then you got the phlegmatics, Phlegmatics. Phlegmatics. The phlegmatics, if you're old enough, I'm guesstimating that there are some people in here that may not be old enough, but the phlegmatics are like the Mr. Spock in the old Star Trek series. Does anybody remember Mr. Spock? Leonard Nimoy, live long and perspire. Live long and prosper, right? Right? He was very logical. He was very serious. He was very, very direct, not emotional. These people that you need to talk to their head before they talk to their heart. Logic. So if you have a phlegmatic, if you have somebody who's serious and uses words like think and I thought so, and I was thinking about that might be that they're a phlegmatic, which means that you want to use the same words that they're using if you want to impact them in a direct way. So let's use an example. If I'm Russian, which I'm not, I'm Baltimorean. Any Baltimoreans in the room? I'm Baltimorean, raised on Harriet Avenue in Lakeland, right? So if I'm Russian and you're French and I'm talking to you all day long in Russian, and you might be polite, but you have no clue what I'm talking about. Anybody been in conversation with people that they're looking at you, but you know nobody's home? You know, maybe in your own household that I don't want to name names, but maybe in your own household you're trying to get through to these people and they just ain't understand. Ain't's not a word anymore, is it? Well, anyway, they ain't understanding what you're talking about, right? But you know what? When you seek to understand, when you seek to understand, as someone famous said, then you will be understood. So when you seek to listen very carefully to how the people that you're serving are talking to you and communicating with you, and you use that same technique back at them, then guess what's going to happen? The walls are going to come down. Because you and I know that I can't imagine being in your business, but you know that you go home sometimes, you just want to bang your head against a wall. Anybody in the room that just want to bang your head against the wall? Well, you know what? In my world, because in my agencies we help thousands of folks in a lot of places, I realize, this is important for all of us, that if you don't take care of you, how are you going to take care of other people? I'll say it again. If you don't take care of you, how are you going to take care of other people? How many people have flown in a plane before? At least once. When you're on the plane, you're sitting on the plane, and these people up front, they go through this long list of stuff that you ought to do, right? So when cabin pressure, I'm not sure the exact words, but when you lose cabin pressure, what do? You put the oxygen mask on yourself, and if you got kids, don't worry about the kids. If you got people in your life, don't worry about... No, it doesn't say that. It says if you have small children, what do? You take care of you first. Because how are you going to help the child if you don't have oxygen on you? Listen to me very carefully here. If you are not taking care of you physically and mentally and emotionally, you're not going to be able to help people in the most ideal way possible. Because when you are down, then guess what happens? Then you are not impactful in the people in your own life. Because you have the ability to change the minds and the hearts of people that you serve every day. I'm not only talking at work, I'm talking maybe a person that you live with, maybe the people that you go to church with, maybe folks that you just like to hang out with. You have the ability to change their hearts and their minds by how you communicate with them. So the people that you serve every day, if you're dealing with emotional folks, should you deal with them logically? No, because they're not going to understand what you're trying to get across. So if you can get people to answer your questions, then you're in control of the conversation. I used to watch years ago a guy named Larry King. We all might remember Larry King. What did Larry King used to do? He used to ask a question and listen. Listen to this. When somebody else answers your question, then they're right. When you try to answer their question, they might not trust you. So to get them to answer the question and they say it and their ears hear it, guess what happens? They tend to believe it. It's called a yes path. If you get the clients that are knuckleheads, anybody have a knucklehead client? At least one knucklehead client? Two knucklehead. I will forego that personal story. Thank you very much. So you need to get them to like you. Let me kind of share another tip that if you're dealing with clients face to face, I'm assuming that a lot of you deal with clients over the phone. Yes, over the phone mostly. Some face to face. Okay, let me give you two concepts that you can use today. Okay? Let's say you have a person that uses certain words, and they could be anything, so I could go down a list of 1,000 of them. They use a certain word, and you catch that word in the conversation. Maybe the words ain't, for one example. In order to get through to them quickly, you have seconds, what should you do? You should use the word ain't. I'm going to stretch it out a little bit more here. If they have a slight accent, not to be offensive, but if you want to bond with these people, maybe you should, it's called mirroring and matching. Matching and mirroring. You need to match and mirror the tone in which they're talking. So let's say you have a person that's kind of talking like this. Do you want to, hey, Mr. Jones, how you doing? What's up? Do you want to do that? No, you're going to freak them out. But if they're, hey, Mr. Jones, then what do you have to do? You have to ratchet it up for them to say, they're just like me. You understand? Your job, I'm assuming, I could be wrong here, but your job is to get money from people to take care of their kids. Am I in the right place or the wrong place? All right? Your job is to help children because daddies sometimes aren't being very responsible. Well, that's another sermon for another day. So when you ask them questions and repeat back to them what they're saying in the way that they're saying it, you're going to get more out of these people every single day. Another way to do it when you're face-to-face with folks is that if they are gesturing, this is going to sound bizarre. You're going to think, John, you are from Mars or Venus or somewhere planet not from Earth. But I'm telling you, it works. Let me tell you a quick story. I was with a partner of mine. We were in a house in Cherry Hill. Does anybody know where Cherry Hill is? South Baltimore, right? Love people at Cherry Hill. I love them. They're awesome people. So I'm in this house. We're talking probably about 2002, 2003. And I was new to that environment for the job, not the area. So I'm sitting there, I'm at the head of the table, I have a client over here, and I have my partner here, and the client began to rock back in her chair. And I'm relatively new in that job at the time. So my partner, who had experience in that field, started to rock back in the chair like the client did. The client scratched her head with her right hand. The partner, who was across the way from her, took his left hand and scratched his head because it would then mirror the right hand on the person on the other side of the table. Longer story short, it's called mirroring and matching. You're going to say, John, that's a little weird, man. This is your keynote speaker. You're talking about some weird crap, weird stuff up here, John. Let me tell you, if you use that technique, the response rate that you're going to get from people that you're trying to serve goes through the roof, because then they say, they're just like me. Instead of you're a state employee and you're the enemy, you're trying to get money out of my pocket. Now you're then my friend because you're kind of trying to talk like me. You're asking me questions, and instead of giving me information, it then opens up my heart and then it opens up my mind. Now there's two other types of people. The first one is choleric, CHOLERIC, choleric. Cholerics are the drill sergeants, the mother-in-laws who think they are God's gift to mankind. The father-in-laws who get all up in your business, like you need to do X, Y, and Z. You know what I'm saying? Or you got a neighbor who thinks they own your property, right? Or maybe you got a boss, who's a manager and not a leader. Oh, well, and I think I just got kicked out, right? So you got a boss or a coworker that thinks that they're, I got to be polite, that some parts don't stink. Let me use those terms, right? Can I get an amen? Right. They think they're all that. So when you have a client like, hear me, when you got a client like that, what should you do as a person that's trying to get into their world? Because you're not going to get them into your world. You got to get into their world. So then you have to be as aggressive as them, because guess what? That temperament, that personality style, they respect people like that. If you're quiet and shy and dealing with a person like that, they're going to walk all over you. And by the way, you can use this. It's called a choleric temperament. Then the fourth is the sanguine, S-A-N-G-U-I-N-E, S-A-N-G-U-I-N-E. The sanguine people are the potty people. Not P-O-T-T-Y, but P-A-R-T-Y. The partiers, the people that just want to have fun. You know this, if you're old enough, the song, Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Girls just want, you didn't know I was going to sing, did you? Girls just want to have fun. You know what I'm saying? They just want to sing. They just want to have fun. They want to party. They want to have a grand old time. They know a lot about people. They know a lot of people, but they know that much about the person. Whereas the melancholy, on the flip side of that scale, knows fewer people, but they know an awful lot about those people. So if you're dealing with a client that's a sanguine person, hey man, we're going to have a great time, then guess what? You're going to have to talk to them in a way that's a little ratchet, actually a lot ratcheted up. So your volume is going to have to go up, and guys, guess what? Your tone's going to have to go up a little bit more because they're way up here. Let me tell you, your job, believe it or not, is in the communication business. That's what you do. That's what you should be doing. Because if you want to help the children, that's ultimately what you're trying to do, then you got to get into their world. You got to get into the parents' world where they can understand what you're talking about. Habits and systems change behavior. Habits change behavior. So what if you were able to possibly help the people that you help every day create new habits in their lives, because you're going to help them identify their why. I go back to what I said earlier. People don't change because of the what. They don't. I mean, you probably got up this morning and brushed your teeth. I hope. I'm assuming, or you took them out of the cup and popped them in your mouth. However you do it, that's your business, right? You know, that's none of my business. But you probably brushed your teeth because you don't want your teeth to fall out. I'm tempted to share. How many? I'll say it this way: how many know young people who try to fake their parents out to make them think that they actually showered every night? And then by the third day, like 13, 14 years old, and then they come downstairs and it's like, holy moly, what is that smell, right? And they're trying to fake you out. They go in and turn on the shower and, pretend like, get the sprinkle water on the towel, because you go in and check, because where's that smell coming from? And they stink pretty bad. Well, guess what? You shower every day because you probably don't want to smell. Meaning that your why motivates you to do the what. Guess what happens? When you and I choose to identify the why and help people that you serve identify the why and make the why bigger than the money, to make the why bigger than the money that you're trying to get out of their pockets every paycheck, guess what? They're more likely to do the things that they should be doing in the first place. I want to share some personal stuff, more personal stuff than I had planned on sharing here with y'all. You know what I'm saying? A little TMI here going on today. Juliana was able in her short life to impact the lives of more than 13 million people online, countries around the world, because Juliana's courage was and is my example and my why to keep doing what I'm doing every day. Because I'm thinking, and I think about this all the time, that if a little girl can fight cancer 8 times in 9 years, and I want to share some of her quotes, a few of them here in a minute, then how dare I whine and complain about the stuff that I go through every day? What I'm saying to you in a pretty simplistic way is sometimes you and I need to find somebody, or maybe a few people that have gone through so much more than you're going through, or the people that you serve every day that are going through so much more than what they're going through, to say, if you know what, if that person can do what they're doing, then I can get through all the stuff that I got to go through every day. In August 2012, Juliana was fighting the Big C for the 3rd time. And she said, quote, "My name is Juliana Carver, and I've been through some stuff. I don't really know some people out there, but if you're having a hard time, you can get through it. Because if I can do it, then you can, and you know you can."
So, hi, my name is Juliana Carver, and I've been through some stuff, and I don't really know some people out there, but you may have it. So if you're having a hard time, you can get through it. Because if I can get through it, then you can, and you know you can.
You see, you and I need to have heroes in our life. We do. I have many heroes in book form, in eyeball-to-eyeball form, because those people remind me every day. They give me a why to keep getting up every morning. I have to go to my house every day, and she died in our bedroom. Our bedroom. Think it's hard to live in that house right now? Our house is not a home anymore. It's just sheetrock and wood, because our light is gone. Juliana lit up our whole family. Our light is gone. So I've got to keep bringing that light back by her words. She also said in the same year, I said, "Julie, what are some listen, you got to write this one down. If you don't write anything down I'm saying today, write this down." I said, "Julie, what are some characteristics of a champion?" Now, mind you, she was fighting it for the 3rd time then. Listen to this. She says, "Daddy, don't complain." She said, "Be brave and have courage." Don't complain. Be brave and have courage. As a melancholy, melancholies see the world many days as half empty. So I've got to fill my head and fill my heart with words from Juliana and many others that keep me getting up every day. And maybe you have the same struggle. Maybe it's not my struggle, but certainly a percentage of you, maybe a third of you or so, have a hard time getting up in the morning, because you know what? The emotional output of what you need to do every day is draining you dry. I'm telling you, if you keep the words and the attitudes and quotes of people around you, it will change your life. In the same month, we went to a park, and she's on treatment. Her hair's gone again, and we're walking up a hill, and I'm asking her, "Julia, I could pick you up. I mean, I can carry you." She said, she looked at me and she goes, "Daddy, no hill is going to push me down. No hill is going to push me down." You see, you got people that you deal with all day that are whiners and complainers, aren't they? And they got really nothing to whine and complain about. We're running out of time pretty quick here. In October, the year after that, we were in Florida. We were fishing. Actually, I don't fish. I'm from the city. I don't touch worms. Anybody here to touch worms? I ain't no worm touching fool up here, not me, right? I'm not touching worms. Worms are disgusting. So Juliana loves to fish, right? So we're out on this deck down in Florida, and it was getting late, and our son Tim was Julie's best friend. And Julie was getting so frustrated because she wasn't catching a fish. So my wife and I, this is online if you want to check it out, it's all recorded. I recorded everything, almost everything. So we're on the back deck, the sun's going down, and my wife says, Julie, it's getting kind of late, maybe we should go in. And Tim was adamant that Julie needed to catch a fish that night because Julie was there to catch a fish that night. Sometimes we quit just before good things happen. So I'm standing to her left with the camera, of course, in hand. If you go to YouTube, 13 million people have watched her story so far, 13.4 something, like that. So I'm standing to her left, I'm stooped down, I'm looking at her, she's worming a hook. Who's the real man of the family? Not me. That's another story for another day. She's putting a worm on this hook, and she casts it off the edge of the deck. And I hear my wife in the background, Julie, it's getting kind of late. She looks back at her mom. She goes, Mommy, I'm not a giver up.
Mom, I don't like you. Look at that.
I know. It's been stabbed.
Tim, come. Please. Now.
Ready to give up yet?
I'm not giving up.
I know you're not a giver upper. That's for sure. You're
Here,
not
what's
a giver
up?
upper, girl.
I ain't having some.
They are squirmy.
Sure how it's done, big brother.
That quote has gone worldwide. I'm not a giver upper. I want you today, when you leave here, when you go back to your house, when you go back to your family, when you go back to work, I want you to have an attitude that you're not going to be a person who gives up. Because in your business, I'm sure it is a burnout city, that you're dealing with the same, I'll be polite, I was going to say idiots, but that's not polite, the same human beings that don't know that they don't know. A percentage of them, not all, a lot of good people, no doubt. But it will drain you dry unless you keep filling your bucket every day with people and words from people, because when you emotionally connect with people in your family, most people, when you do that with folks that you serve, you're going to impact them in ways that you cannot believe. Let me kind of give you a quick story. There was a guy named Chris who wrote a book, a fable about this guy named Michelangelo. You may have heard the name Michelangelo. And when Michelangelo was about 21 or 22 years old or so, he decided, it's a longer story behind it, but he wanted to create this sculpture that was eventually called the David. And it's over, I think, somewhere in Italy or something. And it's a rated R version of the man standing there, with David, with the rock and the giant, all this stuff, right? In other words, the guy's naked, right? So the story says, it's kind of a fable, but the story says that a boy was walking past this huge slab of marble that Michelangelo was trying to cut out of this sculpture. Longer story short, the little boy said, well, it's just a chunk of marble. And Michelangelo, again in this story, said, no, this is a David trying to get out of his marble. The point I'm trying to tell you is there are people that you serve every single day that if you're able to teach them some of the basic information that I'll get into for a minute or two in a second, that can literally change their families. And that's really what this is all about here today. It's not only changing your family, not only changing the person that you look at in the mirror every day, because all of us have regrets. Am I the only one in the room that does not have regrets? I have a lot of regrets. Anybody in the room have regrets beside me? Please make me feel better. We all have regrets, right? Guess what? The people that you serve every day probably have more regrets than you do. I'm going to repeat, and I'm going to share a story. I have 5 minutes left, those in charge. I'm going to be done in 5, okay? Honestly, I'm not that long-winded. Stories sell, Facts tell. Write it down. Stories sell. Facts tell. Facts don't matter to people that you're trying to serve unless they're phlegmatic. Like I mentioned earlier, if they're Spock, stories aren't going to mean diddly squat. But if they're emotional, 3/4 of the folks that you're going to be dealing with are emotional creatures. Because emotions say, I'm not parting with my paycheck. That's an emotional response. So if you deal with them emotionally, you're going to get a whole lot more out of them. Your fire and your passion is going to create change not only in your family and also in your workplace. And guess what? When you deal with those coworkers every single day that are kind of dancing on your last nerve, why don't you figure out how they're communicating? Figure out what their why is. Figure out what their pain is that's causing them to act in certain ways. And guess what's going to happen? Your ability to build relationships with those in your life is going to explode dramatically in a good way. As I close, if you're in church, don't you love those words? As I close, as I wind down my sermon today. In 2008, I started imploding when Juliana got sick for the first time, about a year prior to that. So I decided that every week I was going to write a blog, write an email, in order not only to help me stay on top, but to help thousands of other people stay on top. Write down my email address. You got it? Write this down. Write it down, John@, johnwcarver.com. John@johnwcarver.com. Thousands of people, CEOs, government employees, a boatload, thousands of other people receive an inspirational email from me every Saturday morning. And it started, to be honest with you, because I needed to remind myself some of the stuff that I was teaching people worldwide. Then what I did a few years after that is I put some of those blogs in a book form. And this is my fourth book. It's called Build Your Foundation, 68 Building Blocks for a Successful and Rewarding Life. I have these out front here for $10 each. Easy read chapters. I think I have ADD. Can you tell I'm slightly hyperactive? Can you tell? Huh? Can I get an amen? Right? Slightly hyper. The things in here are about a page long, page or two long. I can't get into writing chapters that are 10, 12 pages. I can't get through the, you know what I'm saying? So a page or two, you're done a chapter. It's a really easy read. $10, cash or check. You are in control of every relationship that you have. You have the ability to impact the person in the mirror, number one. I'll say it another way. Take care of you first. Get in shape every week. Stay in shape. Eat the right foods. Because if you don't take care of you, you're going to get burnt out very quickly. You're not going to be able to serve the people that you're being paid to serve every day. Surround yourself with people that lift you up and stay away from people that put you down. That's another hour conversation. Do I have time for another? No, I'm just kidding. Stay away from the people that drag you down. I'm telling you, even if they're in your own family, stay away. Get them out of your life. They will drain you dry. And listen to people that have been there and done that have paid the price. Because if you can learn from people like Juliana and so many other people who've been through far, far worse than you'll ever go through, they'll change your life. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.